Bengals, Mick and Sam, taking you to Jungle Land. Bengals pride, it fills the air. Every week we're always there. Touchdowns, tackles, all the plays. Bengals roaring every way. Stories, news, and game recaps. Jungle Juice, we bridge those gaps. Welcome to the Jungle Juice. Mick and Sam, let's break it loose. Cincinnati, hear our call. Bengals fans, unite us all.
Welcome into this week's edition of the Jungle Juice podcast. I'm Sam Gormley. He's Mick Nelson. Mick, we are officially draft week here in Cincinnati.
It's finally here. Now we get to do our mock drafts where you and I both go. Well, you went like what? Did you go 1.5 or 7, or we give you a 1 out of 7 because of Rico and Matt?
So
Lee?
Didn't we end up doing it last year that we did, like, you get 1 point for the first round, 2 points for the second round, 3 points for the third round, and so on? I think is what we ended up doing.
So how many points do we end? I got a goose egg, right?
You did. I got Matt Lee, and I also got I got McKinley Jackson, but I had McKinley Jackson in like the 6th round.
Did you also get Matt Lee, or did we just talk about
I did Matt Lee. I got Ryan Rico, which I can like kind of give myself points on that. So we'll see.
You can take. You beat me anyways, right?
It doesn't really matter.
If we were like neck and neck, I would say no Rico for you.
I have here your draft from last year. It's right in front of me. Do you want to know what your Bengals mock draft was from a year ago?
Oh shit! I actually kind of want to do.
Okay, let's see how you did.
Let's see if I can remember these.
Okay, who was your first round pick? Do you remember from last year's Bengals mock draft? And if you're just joining us, we're about to do a Bengals mock draft for this year. We're just going to do this really quick, though.
Was it an offensive? It wasn't a J.C. Latham.
No, it was Olu Fashanu was your pick, your first round pick for the Bengals.
It was Olu Fashanu. Oh,
your second round pick was Ricky Pearsall. Your first third round pick was Kyrie Jackson. Actually,
R.I.P.
Your second, third round pick was Audric Estime. Then you went Dwayne Carter, Maris Leofau, Nathaniel Watson, Xavier Thomas, Brevin Spanford, and Charles Turner III.
I feel like that would have been a good draft. Just kind of looking back at it a year from.
I don't have mine right in front of me. I know I went Byron Murphy in the first round.
I did go Byron Murphy.
Roman Wilson in the second. I remember that, and so on. But on the show today, we're going into our mock draft for this year. Last year was last year. Today we have our mock draft.
And I think we've learned some lessons in our prediction games from last year.
This is really hard, though.
I think, well, number one, keep tabs on the player visits.
Yes.
Or keep tabs on who the Bengals have been keeping tabs on. I didn't do that whatsoever last year.
And I might be doing that today.
I might be doing that to a fault this year, honestly, at this point, because every single person on my draft board right now, the Bengals have had some form of contact with.
Okay. See, I'm not 100% when it comes to that. So we'll have to see how that goes along. But on the show today, we are going to give away our Bengals mock draft. We're going to do 6 rounds, and then I think at least I have a 7th round pick. You do too.
I also have a 7th round pick.
What we're doing is we probably will not release that on the graphic or so on that we'll make, but it'll be the Bengals make a trade and they pick up a 7th round pick. This is who we think they get in the 7th round is kind of the thing. So we're going to have these 6 picks and so on with that. But we invite you to follow us on our social media channels. We're Facebook, we're YouTube. We are also on Twitter. We're also on your favorite podcasting platform. 5-star rating. Follow us there and subscribe. Like, right? Isn't that what the kids say? Like and subscribe. I don't know. I'm not up for the times.
I don't know. Just help a brother out. You know what I mean? Just help us out.
Riley James is a proud sponsor.
We have our 10 cups out.
A proud subscriber. So be like Riley when it comes to that. I have some questions here for you, Mick, as far as before we go into our actual mock draft for the Bengals just as a whole leading in. I've got 6 questions for you and really just down to 5. And we're kind of going to hit these a little bit quick, but I'm just curious on thought process of some bigger picture questions. Are you ready for these?
Yeah.
Okay. position groups. Let's just start basic for the Bengals this week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in the NFL draft. If you had to give me the top 3 biggest needs for the Bengals this week, they are what?
Okay. Right. Yeah. Edge rusher, number 1 for me. Number 2, safety. And number 3, I'll go guard.
I think that's a good list. Are you putting that in order, or is that just a 3?
Okay, if I'm putting it in order, probably safety is moved down to number 3.
Okay.
Guard's probably at number 2. Edge rusher is at number 1.
And see, I think I'd go defensive tackle at 3 and above safety.
Yeah,
I'm a little bit higher on the need for defensive tackle, I know, than you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the BJ Hill signing and the TJ Slayton signing that they've kind of brought back a little bit of depth for the defensive line. That's not for me to say though that I don't think that they are not going to pick a defensive lineman early on in this draft. I do have one in the first 3 rounds. So we'll just to give you a little sneak peek there.
So do I.
Yeah, you do.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you have yours, and I think I know who you're going with for your defensive lineman, man, just based off of the graphic that you produced.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about at all. I have no idea. What is a need? Let's say we've talked. I mean, in over these past couple of weeks, we've gone deep into the weeds. I mean, we've probably talked about 70 prospects in the draft, give or take.
Yeah.
So we've talked about a guy at every single position, I think, except for long snapper and punter.
And quarterback. Well, I guess you talked about Tommy Malott. Yeah. You talked about Tommy.
And we also mentioned Brady Cook from Missouri.
You did.
As potential undrafted free agents. Which, timeout, I was reading a CBS Sports, doing some of my prep. Mock, 7 round. They had, in the 4th round, the Bengals drafting Kyle McCord.
Excuse me?
Yeah, and I was like, what? Like that would be this is not one of my questions. That would be a move that would make me go, what the hell? No.
Yeah, I would.
No. That makes no sense.
Who was this guy? Was this Pete Prisco?
No, I don't remember who it was off the top of my head.
It wasn't Renner. I don't think Mike Renner would be that stupid, right?
No, I just was like, what are we doing? No. Why would they draft a quarterback in the 4th round, especially Kyle McCord? What, though, is a need that you think the average fan is overlooking that the Bengals have that they need to fix this week in the draft?
Maybe not one that they necessarily need to fix, but I think it's definitely something they definitely need to at least, I wouldn't say there's a fixing problem, but I think that the need that's being overlooked is the wide receiver need. Just because we don't know if Jermaine Burton's going to be on the team next year. So really, you're only running 5 deep at wide receiver if that ends up being the case. We obviously had no production from a wide receiver 3 really in 2024. You had a little bit of Andre Yoshivas sprinkled in here and there, but it wasn't anything that we're used to seeing with Tyler Boyd. Although I don't know if they're necessarily going to address that very early on in the draft, I think that that's an underrated position to at least take a look at here.
Riley writes in and says, McCord would be terrible. That guy from U of L who is suddenly everywhere is the guy that we need. Chuck, the quarterback there from Louisville.
Is that how you pronounce it? Shuck?
Shuck, yes.
Okay.
Shuck. And he sucks because he's from L's down. Sorry. Cat fan in here. I had to do it at least one point.
What position do you think it is?
Yeah, I think you're right on wide receiver. Can I just say skill? Like an offensive skill position. Because I think you're seeing fans that I like to think this is the average fan that is who is just going to watch the first round of the draft and probably not going to watch day 2 and 3. And they're just going to read the names and they're going to react on that. They're not getting into the breakdowns of the roster and so on. They're telling you the Bengals don't need a running back because they saw Chase Brown do a lot last year and they just saw them sign Samaje Perine. Whereas we're diving into the weeds and knowing that, yes, there is a hole at running back because running backs are a dime a dozen in the NFL. Based on injuries and production and so on. Same thing with wide receivers, same thing with tight end.
Don't we only have 2 running backs on the active roster?
Well, you technically have Zach Moss. You do have Zach Moss still there.
Okay. The ghost of Zach Moss.
I think Travion is gone now. I think he's technically a free agent still, but he's probably a guy that you could bring back in July.
Mhm.
And then you've got a couple of practice squad guys. You've got Kendall Milton, and then you've got the other guy that they brought, whose name is now escaping me, who went to like UConn or something.
Okay.
Bengals pick 17th, though. What is and when I ask you the best case scenario for the Bengals of the 17th, I'm not asking you to say, Abdul Carter drops to 17th, because there's just no chance of that happening. What is, though, a legitimate best case scenario for the Bengals at 17?
And then this is going to be such a cookie cutter answer, but I think it's probably the most true answer that I can give. I just want a guy that the Bengals can plug in on day one and can contribute right away. I'm kind of tired of us drafting a guy to start in 2 years. I want a guy that can come in and contribute right away, that can fill a need that we have, because we have a lot of needs in comparison to previous draft years. And just to have a guy that can come in and produce and live up to the potential that we want to have in a first round draft pick.
What's the worst case scenario?
We get a guy that's a project that that
you want to drop a name?
I don't even know if there are really any projects that are a first round, talent right now.
Let's throw a name of maybe the most polarizing guy that I think you've seen mock the Bengals, and that's Tyler Booker. If Tyler Booker is the name, your reaction is what at 17?
I mean, I'd be okay with it. It's kind of ho-hum for Tyler Booker. I have some questions about his run blocking ability. I don't know if the testing numbers are necessarily all that great, which he's an offensive lineman, so what does that really matter? But the intangibles I heard are top notch and whatnot. His pass blocking grade's been pretty damn good. So I wouldn't be too mad about it. I think he's a guy you could plug in and start right away. Now, if you pick him and say Gray Zabel's on the board or Donovan Jackson's on the board, two guys that I project to be better at the NFL level than Tyler Booker, I'm not going to be too ecstatic about it, but I'm not going to really hate on it, I guess. There's not a lot of raw prospects, I feel like, in this first round. Like, Amarius Mims was a surefire raw guy, like you said, a lottery ticket. I don't necessarily feel like I see any of that in terms of position needs that the Bengals have and players that they are looking at in this first round.
What is a move that the Bengals could make? And this could be a first round, this could be a day 2, this could be a day 3 that they could make, that if it's announced or it's made, whether it's a trade or something, that you're going to be disappointed in? Is there anything that comes immediately to mind?
God, I don't know, because I was really hating on the Omar Norman lot pick earlier. But you just look at the tape, you look at the numbers that he actually brings about. And I know the missed tackles numbers aren't great, and his total PFF grades weren't great. Then you look at pass rush win rate and pressure rate. He's ranking number 1 in both of those categories. Then you take a look at the tape, and this guy's a freaking maniac. So I don't know if I'm really have a prospect that I'm like just that I absolutely hate right now. I guess if there's a way to put it. Whereas I feel like last year there was plenty of prospects where I was just like, please don't sign me up for this guy.
Day 3. Let's go day 3. Who is a guy that you're hoping the Bengals name gets called? Maybe this is not a guy in your mock. Maybe it just didn't work out for whatever reason, but is there a guy? I know I have one that comes to mind in this realm of you're really hoping the Bengals draft.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I got to go back to my list here. If you want,
how about I drop mine
real quick? Yeah,
and listen, and this is absolutely 100% biased, but I think Upton Stout. I think he fits a need.
Shit, God damn it, that's who I would have picked.
Okay, well, we'll go with the same guy.
That's
Upton
who
Stout.
I would have picked.
Okay, we'll both go with the Hilltopper of Upton Stout.
Okay, no, I'll go with a different guy.
Upton Stout, I feel like fits a need, of slot corner, has some safety versatility though, which I think you'll like in the NFL, especially at that defensive level. And for me, of a guy that I would love is being a Hilltopper. And I've got my Hilltopper sign for Bengals back here over my shoulder. I'd love to potentially have to get a new one because we got a new guy on there.
Yeah, for sure. And also, you just watch that tape. That's just it's textbook Mike Hilton. That's a positional need that we potentially have. The reason why I'm not listing Nickelback as a top need is because I think they are looking at they're looking at pushing Dax inside of that nickel back position, which that's where it kind of takes away the need. My day 3 guy, now that I'm just kind of going back and looking at my list here, I'm going to go with Torrey Horton, wide receiver out of Colorado State. I remember watching his tape. I feel like I saw a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown out of Torrey Horton, a really good underneath high volume pass catcher, and kind of fills that slot receiver role, even though he didn't necessarily play primarily in the slot in college, but still played about a third of his snaps in there, but pretty much taking, filling that positional need that we potentially have in the wide receiver room.
I hope you've not seen the comment yet, but Riley has given his guy. I'm going to give you one guess to
Luke
it.
Kandra.
How did you guess? Luke
Because
Kandra.
I read the comment section.
Did you? Okay. But if I would have told you to guess, that probably would have been the guy that you would have assumed that Riley would have said of his best case scenario, or really hoping to get in day 3. Okay. There we go. There's some questions to answer, and now it's time for us to jump into our 6th round mock draft +1. We're just going to call it. How's that sound? Because we'll throw another guy out there as well. Again, this is a contest between us. If you want to play along in the comment section, feel free. How we're going to do it is if we get the 1st round pick correct, that's 1 point. 2nd round pick, 2 points. 3rd round pick, 3 points, and so on. So you get more picks because it's harder to get potentially as the draft goes along. I think what we did last year is that, like, remember, I think I projected Matt Lee in the 5th round and he ended up going the 7th. We get half of 7 then, or something like that, to get 3.5. Is that, do you want to, how you want to do it? Or
yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That works perfect.
So that if we're wrong on the round, but get the right guy, we at least get points there. Okay. Are you ready? Got to get the buttons ready. And Mick, I'm going to let you open us up. The Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock on Thursday night.
Are we playing the noise?
For pick number 17.
Yes, Cincinnati Bengals select with the 17th overall pick. Nick Eamon-Warry, safety out of South Carolina. Shocker for you there. So Nick Eamon-Warry, he was a 3-year starter at safety in South Carolina. Fun little tidbit here. He's the first freshman since Jadeveon Clowney at South Carolina to earn All-American honors as a freshman. I think he was on the freshman All-American list, not necessarily a total, all of college football All-American list. But that was just a fun little tidbit here. Primarily plays in the box as a strong safety. He's mentioned that his idol is Derwin James, who is the safety over in Los Angeles playing for the Chargers. He was on the all-touted freaks list. If I had a way to describe him when you watch the tape, I mean, the freaky athleticism really pops out. The dude's 6'3", 220 pounds or whatnot. He's if there's a way I can describe him, he's the Ellie De La Cruz of defensive backs. Like, he really just stands out on the tape with his length and his athleticism. He absolutely tore it up at the combine to the point where Math Bomb gave him a perfect 10 out of 10 relative athletic score, which is very rare to see. He does kind of fit that Bengals mold too. He's a team captain in his senior year at South Carolina. Dane Brugler mentioned that he loved his physical mentality, and he honestly thinks that if Nick Eamon-Warry weren't playing football right now, he would be in the UFC right now. So that kind of just speaks to the toughness that he played with at South Carolina. And then if you look at the gradings, the metrics, they're all pretty darn good. 86.8 coverage grade in 2024. That ranked 25th out of all safeties. 11% foreskin completion rate. That was in the top half of college football. A very, very, very good 37.1 passer rating allowed. Had 6 picks last year. 73.3 run defensive grade and a 4% run stop rate. That's also in the top half of the league. Then also the missed tackling numbers weren't that bad at all. Only a 7% missed tackle rate, which is pretty good for a defensive back in college football. Ended up posting an 89.5 grade in that category. So I honestly would really like this pick. I think we've been kind of hurting in the safety room the past couple of years. Now the issue the potential thing I kind of see coming down the road is that Nick Eamon-Worry is kind of a strong safety, so he's going to be playing a little bit more in the box than the other safety will. That's starting with Nick Eamon-Worry. So there's going to be some questions on what you do with defensive fronts. Are you going to keep Geno Stone playing at free safety? Are you going to move Jordan Battle back? Or are you going to have all three kind of rotate in and out at those safety spots? But Nick Eamon-Worry is a guy I'm going with.
The fit is the question with him. Like you just said, that's just the question. But it's also one of those things that if you have a good player, you're going to find a way to put him on the field.
Exactly.
And, I know that like Dane Brugler says that he thinks his floor is he's adequate. And that's what you have to have as a first round pick. And he thinks that, his ceiling is
crazy.
Best safety in the NFL kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you're it's not necessarily boom or bust. There's really not a lot of potential for bust, but you definitely with Nick Eamon-Worry could be an exciting first round pick for the Cincinnati Bengals in more ways than one.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Are you ready for my pick? And I think you I
already have his page pulled up here on PF.
Alrighty. We're going to go ahead and cue it. With the 17th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Oregon. I mean, with Harmon, I disagree with you as far as the defensive tackle thing, because I think when you're looking at this, you've got some decent run stoppers in there, but you have no pass rush coming from the interior of that defense, and you need something. Derek Harmon is going to bring you some of that. We've talked about this, especially in those day one guys. You have some guys in there that you're betting on traits. You're betting on the potential, especially some of those guys from Texas A&M. With Harmon, you're kind of doing that to an extent as well. But at the same time, he's got production. Last year, 55 pressures, which was 12 more than the next highest defensive tackle in all of college football for Derek Harmon. Last season at Oregon, he turned that into 5 sacks, 10.5 tackles for a loss. Looking at the PFF grade, 86.3 as a pass rusher, 80.5 as a run defender, too. So he can at least stop the run there. The big red flag with Derek Harmon, and it is a big red flag, is missed tackles. About a 25% missed tackle rate last year, which is, that's daunting. That's daunting last year, but that can also hopefully be something that with a new defensive line coach, a new defensive coordinator, that you could work on improving upon that, especially because he'd be a guy that would be rotating in and out with BJ Hill. He'd be your guy that would be in there hopefully more on your passing downs, especially on third down, giving some extra lift to the Bengals interior pass rush. Because I was listening back to our podcast from this time last year when we were doing this mock draft. And I said, you think about the Bengals' 2 losses in the playoffs in the Joe Burrow era. What were the main reasons that they lost? Is they lost because an interior pass rusher by the name of Aaron Donald and an interior pass rusher by the name of Chris Jones. You look at the Eagles. Why they win the Super Bowl?
Terrible offensive line play.
Yeah,
can we add that into that?
But still. And then you have Eagles won the Super Bowl a lot because they had a stellar defensive line. You have got to have a defensive line to win consistently in this NFL, especially on that interior, because I can't think back in the last X amount of years, the last time a team won the Super Bowl without a dude at 3-tech. Yeah. And this would be a dude at 3-tech for the Bengals.
Yeah. So, I mean, I totally get where you're coming from in that sense of that is, I think interior defensive lineman at the 3-tech position is by far and away the most underrated position in the league.
I mean, you think the Bengals had one of the best guys at that position for 5 or 6 years.
Had top 5 defenses with Geno Atkins at that 3-tech position. And I kind of get where you're coming from in terms of, man, I really want a dude there. I guess the question is Derek Harmon necessarily going to be that dude, or if he's going to be more of a middling, mid-tier starter in the league at that position? Is he just going to really be another BJ Hill or whatnot? I didn't really dive into the testing numbers for Derek Harmon, but the one thing that really kind of concerns me is that we have these pressure rates, his pressure rates and his pass rush win rate were both, towards the top of college football, but he only has 5 sacks to show for it. So, is that where the missed tackling kind of comes into play there, right? Is that is that, how many sacks did he end up leaving off the board because of that missed tackle rate? Like you said, hopefully maybe coaching could kind of shore that up. But I'm just kind of worried that Derek Harmon's not going to end up becoming like a Chris Jones or an Aaron Donald. Whereas I think there are maybe other people in this first round that could end up becoming elite at their position where they're playing.
Let's jump into the second round. Last year we did so Derek Harmon didn't have all testing numbers, but if you're looking at his RAS score just based on his height, would be a 9.01, his weight at 8.25, 40-yard dash and 8.83, his 20-yard would be a 7.85, his 10-yard would be a 7.56. So it's there for him. He just didn't have any explosiveness or agility testing at the combine to fit along with that. Alrighty, we'll snake it. So I'll go next to the second round, and we'll do that. And I think it might not shock you the way I'm going with this. With the 49th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, I'm sticking in the trenches and going to Georgia and getting my guard and Tate Ratledge.
Okay.
I talked about him a lot on our day 2 show. I guess this was a week ago. He's the Cincinnati Bengal. I just feel like he fits everything that they want. 2-time All-American guard, 2-time All-SEC right guard where he played next to Amarius Mims. So you've got that sort of connection already with him. Kirby Smart described him as special as he comes because his leadership, 95% of Georgia's team voted him as a team captain in 2024. He's described as a bully, a football guy, and he self-describes himself as a blocker, as a dirtbag when he's out there. And I love that. That's an AFC North guy. You're looking at him.
Personality.
Absolutely. But we're talking about testing numbers and athleticism. Wow. He is off the charts when it comes to athleticism. He had a 9.96 RAS score. That is the third highest offensive player, regardless of position, in this draft. Following only, as we mentioned on the show, last week, a fullback from Old Dominion and a wide receiver from Troy. Red flag. Injuries have followed him. He's missed 20 games over 4 years with different injuries. But you mentioned he met with the Bengals at the combine. So they have that interview with him. So I'm going to go with Tate Ratledge as my right guard.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really solid pick. I really love Tate Ratledge's demeanor. The grading's been pretty darn good his entire time at Georgia. Just looking, he did have one really terrible game in 2024 against Ole Miss. I don't know if that was the Walter Nolan matchup or whatnot. So I mean, that might just be a thing of note, but we're looking at elite grading. That might just be that one game that really dragged this season grading down to a 77, because you're looking at 80s across the board throughout all of 2024. You're looking at high 80s in pass blocking in 2023 and 2022. I love the mullet. I love the personality. I think it's a really good pick. And also played with Amarius Mims on the right side of the line.
Yes. Yeah, that's what he was the right guard when Amarius Mims was the right tackle. So you've got that experience. I mean, Ratledge is a right guard. That is where he's played his entirety. Because I'm worried a little bit about the whole drafting an offensive tackle to play guard.
Mm-hmm.
Even the guys that have been potentially, like the guy from Arizona, right?
Jonas Savanaia.
Yes. He was a guy I was looking at, and the Bengals have met with him a couple of times. Mm-hmm. But primarily he's played a lot of tackle, has played a little bit at guard, but even like the guy like Wyatt Milam. I just want somebody who has experience at guard that you're hoping you can slide right in there and be a starter on day one. And that, I think Tate Ratledge fits that. All righty. Are you ready to hit the chime for your second round pick?
Yeah. So with the 49th pick, we're also we're going to stay in the trenches here, but we're going to be on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to go Jack Sawyer, the edge rusher out of Ohio State.
Oh, boy, you're doing it. You're doing it.
God. I'm only doing it for the Ohio State fans so I can get some love for them. It's really just a clout pick here. Anyways, Jack Sawyer, 2-year starter at Ohio State, has had a top 30 visit with the Bengals. Provides good frame and size. He's 6'5", 260 pounds. definitely a 4-3 edge rusher, described as cold-blooded by his OSU defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles. Voted a team captain in 2024 and didn't miss a single game that he was at Ohio State, including 29 straight starts. The grading has been really, really, really good for him. Now, the question is that just a product of him being an edge rusher on an elite Ohio State defense, and how much of that was him just tearing it up himself? But the grading, again, was really good. He had an 89.4 pass rush grade in 2024 that ranked 12th in all of college football. 64 total pressures, 10 sacks, 16 quarterback hits. Had a pressure rate of 10.4% that also ranked 12th. Had a pass rush win rate of 17.6%, which ranked 16th in all of college football, and also graded really well against run. We have an 82.5 run defensive grade, which ranked 15th amongst edge rushers in college football. I think provides really good value in the second round as an edge rusher. I think that his character traits and what he provides off the field as well as on the field just screams Cincinnati Bengal to me. And this is not just me comparing him to Sam Hubbard, who was also an edge rusher that came out of Ohio State to the Bengals on D2.
An Ohio native.
Also, where's Pickerington at, by the way? I didn't
That's
even...
like...
is that Dayton?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, now I got to pull it up.
Yeah, here, I'm giving it a Google while you're Pickerington, Ohio. Now I'm putting myself on it is in
Fairfield.
Franklin County.
Oh, Fairfield County. Okay.
This is, yes, outside of Columbus. Outside of Columbus.
Okay. So, yeah, pretty much a local guy.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, listen, it fits a need. So we've both gone with some interesting guys to open us up. So, okay, let's jump into the third round for you, Mick, to keep us rolling. Your third round pick for the Cincinnati Bengals.
Let's stay on the defensive line here. We're going to go Omar Norman-Lott, the defensive tackle out of Tennessee, with the Bengals' third-round pick. So Omar Norman-Lott was a rotational player in a loaded Tennessee defensive front. Even though he was a rotational player and didn't have any starts, he finished second on the team in pressures with 27 pressures, had 5 sacks and 9 quarterback hits. The grading was pretty darn good in terms of the pass rush grade. He had an 81.6, which ranked 10th amongst interior defensive linemen in college football. And as I aforementioned earlier in our show here, ranked number 1 in pressure rate at 12.6%, and also ranked number 1 in pass rush win rate at 18.9%. Run defensive grade could use a little bit of work. He had a 68.1 run defensive grade in 2024. If I had to assume, it's probably a byproduct of missed tackling. He did have a 33% missed tackle rate, but did post an 80 right on the dot run defensive grade in 2023, and also had a 6% run stop rate in 2023 or in 2024 as well, which is good. When you look at the tape, and this is where you're talking about needing that dude in the interior at 3 tech, and you put on the tape for Omar Norman-Lott, and you can get a starter's worth of snaps out of the guy. I see the explosiveness that I see in Geno Atkins and Omar Norman-Lott. You're seeing absolutely explosiveness at the point of attack. You're seeing him able to extend his arms and pull offensive guards away from him and getting it to the quarterback. I think he might be a project in terms of getting the snap count up there, but I think they might end up reaping the rewards if they end up taking him in the third round.
He'd be an interesting pick. There's no question about that, because I mean he produced not a lot of snaps. I know that, which can be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can be a bad thing. It'll be interesting to see how that turns out for sure. Okay, I am going to drop in here for my third round pick. Guess where I'm going to go? In the trenches, of course, because that's where the Bengals are going to need to go a lot of. And with the 81st pick in the NFL draft, the Cincinnati Bengals pick Kyle Kennard, a defensive end from South Carolina. You know me, I talked about it. I got to bet on production. And you want production? Yeah. Kyle Kennard had a lot of it. And you know what I like to say too is, okay, where was your production? Where was your production? Because that is also extremely important, because are you doing it? And this is not a shot at Mike Green, But that's one of the question marks with a guy like a Mike Green is this Sun Belt production or is this legitimate production? And luckily you can say with a guy like Kyle Kennard is that's SEC production. So that is something that you can hang your hat on. And you look at it, 15 and a half sacks last year. He was a consensus All-American, SEC Defensive Player of the Year, first team All-SEC, led the SEC in sacked, forced 5 fumbles in the last 2 years. I mean, almost 30 sacks in the last 2 years. That's a lot in the SEC. I mean, and you look at the grading numbers too for Kennard, they're not bad. I mean, 77 defensive grade, run defense 72.3. That's not awful by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad tackler. Pass rushing grades pretty well in all of that. I think this would be a really good one of those mid-round guys. I mean, 15.4% missed tackle rate. That's what you're about to expect probably at an edge rusher when you're looking at in those middle rounds of the guy. But I think Kyle Kennard is a guy that the Bengals would like to get a lot of in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I mean, we've already said before, edge rusher is a need that the Bengals need to address in this draft. So addressing one of the first 3 rounds is something that they definitely need to do here. I like Kyle Kennard's numbers. The one thing I am just kind of noting, just looking at his PFF grading from 2024, he definitely kind of fizzled out towards the end of the year. Do you have any notes of if he was playing with an injury of some sort towards the end of the season, or if
it doesn't necessarily say anything. It did say that he cooled off late in the season, had a monster start to the year.
Yes,
monster
he did.
Start to the season.
I mean, we're talking seven pressures against LSU, 7 against Old Dominion. Had a good game against Kentucky as well, from what I've seen.
I mean, let's be real. I think you could have had a good game against Kentucky offensive line last year, but still, Kentucky's offensive line was awful. Okay, that is day 1 and 2. So to recap really quick, in the 1st round, Mick went with Nick Emanwari. I went with Derek Harmon. In the 2nd round, you went with Jack Sawyer. I went with Tate Ratledge. In the 3rd round, you went with Omar Norman Lott. And in the 3rd round, I went with Kyle Kennard. So I'll jump in now to the 4th round. This might be your first surprise from me, at least, because I don't think this is a guy we've talked about. In the 4th round with the 119th pick, the Cincinnati Bengals select Jarquez Hunter, running back from Auburn. Bengals are going to draft a running back on day 3.
I like Jarquez Hunter, by the way.
He's a day 3 pick, I think, for the Bengals, but he's a 4th round pick, so he's going to be in that realm. First team All-SEC, he averaged 6.4 yards per carry in the SEC. That's really, really good on an Auburn team that wasn't very good. Had 42 carries of 10 yards or more last season. Couple of big things for him as well.
Fumbles.
20.7 yards per return on his kicks career. That's something that I think you could try and bring some more juice into the kick return room for that. Average 8.2 yards per catch in his career, and really graded decently well as a pass blocker. Like, has at least, I mean, it's not, I mean, decent for him when it comes to that. Now, you mentioned the fumbles are a tad bit of a concern, but also you think about another running back that the Bengals drafted 2 years ago who had fumbling as a concern. And he had he had 2 big fumbles this year, but after that point, he didn't fumble again. That's something I think you can fix and you can do with time. So I'm going to go with Jarquez Hunter as my 4th round pick.
All right. Good pick.
Going into the SEC.
Jarquez Hunter. With my 4th round pick.
Wait.
Do the chime.
Got to do the chime. I'm going
to pick the Jarquez Hunter of the ACC. We're going to go with Bayshell Tootin, the running back.
I almost did.
Tech. And you just mentioned all the things in terms of the kick returning experience that Jarquez Hunter had. I believe Bayshell Tootin also had pretty much the same returning stats, or in terms of returning experience, average 23.8 yards per return per kickoff. He was a Freaks List alum, was a combine darling, posting a 9.24 RAS score and ran a 4.32 at the combine. We talk about the rushing statistics, had a little over 1,100 yards, averaged 6.3 yards per attempt, and had 15 touchdowns in 2024. Posted an 80.7 rushing grade, and I think that would have been much higher if it weren't for the fumbling issues. He did have 4 fumbles last year. He did have 5 fumbles the year before, and that's something he needs to clean up. But the explosiveness is there. 4.4 yards after contact, which is elite, which was an elite mark in college football, and 54% of his yardage counted as breakaway yards, which really just highlights his home run ability. The pass blocking isn't great either. He graded a 47 in pass block grade, but I don't know if I'm necessarily looking at that right now, just considering how good of a pass blocker Chase Brown has ended up becoming.
And you got Samaje Perine too.
And you also have Samaje Perine back there. But if you're looking for a running back with some home run ability, this is a guy that the Bengals have already met with, I believe, at the Combine or at his pro day. I think that this would also be a pretty darn good pick. So we both have running back in the 4th round here.
Yeah, and I think both of us would be happy with either one of those. I think they both bring different things to the table as well. I was looking at a lot of different running backs. The guy from Syracuse was a guy I was looking at as well. Even the guy from SMU.
Oh, LaQuint Allen.
Yes, from Syracuse. He's an interesting guy, and even the guy from SMU. All righty, 5th round we head. Mick, snake it to the 5th.
Yeah. So with the 5th round pick, and this might be a little bit of hopeful wishing here because he's tabbed as a 4th or 5th round pick right now. But that's going to be Jalen Rivers, the guard out of Miami. The Bengals I've not selected a guard yet in the draft or an offensive lineman yet. So this is kind of addressing that need. They've also had contact with Jalen Rivers, as you highlighted in last week's show or on Wednesday's show. 3-year starter at the U, was utilized in an RPO air raid attack over in Miami, which is a scheme fit for sure, is what the Bengals, I think that's something the Bengals run very often. Good position versatility, multiple starts at tackle and guard. Was the team captain for 4 games in 2024. We know the Bengals love that. He was 2nd team All-ACC in 2023 and an honorable mention in 2024. And the honorable mention in 2024 was with him missing 5 games as well towards the end of the year. He would more than likely play on the left side. He primarily played at left tackle and left guard. Last year at left tackle, he had a 78.8 pass blocking grade. Only gave up 9 pressures and 1 sack, and 65.8 run blocking grade, which is, could use some work, but isn't terrible. Also posted a 73 pass block grade when he played full time at left guard in 2022.
Yeah, it would be a great pick of one of those. If you're looking for a day 3 guard, this might be the best of those day 3 guys. And I like that he has the experience because, like I said, I'm worried about we're drafting a tackle and going to turn him into a guard.
Yeah. And
you have versatility there with the Rivers of playing. I mean, he played a dozen games at left guard in his career and a dozen games at left tackle. So you have pretty much split 50-50 down the stretch for that. All righty. I'm going to jump into the 5th round here. And with the 153rd pick in the NFL draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Jack Kaiser, linebacker from Notre Dame. Listen, I'd be stunned if the Bengals leave this draft without a single Notre Dame defensive guy. They're going to grab one of them. Xavier Watts, I was going back and forth between him and Tate Ratledge in the 2nd round, back and forth, and I ended up going with Ratledge. And then Watts just wouldn't be available in the 3rd round. Now, that could obviously change depending on how the 1st round pick goes. But for Kaiser, we talked about it on Wednesday. Ranked as the best linebacker at the Senior Bowl, led the teams in tackles, extremely high character guy. Al Golden supposedly loves this guy. It seems to fit into the realm of that. And I also mentioned my favorite part about Jack Kaiser, and it's still like, I give him a neck roll because he was a wing T quarterback in high school. And I don't know why I love that so much, but if you're telling me that I have an AFC North linebacker and you have to ask me what offensive position he had to play in high school, I want him to be a wing T quarterback. Like, don't you, I feel like that fits the AFC North, blue collar, we're just going to run you over. And I like that. Give him a neck roll. Let's go. Give him 45 or something. I would be really excited for that. Riley says Jack Kaiser is a top 10 linebacker name.
It's a good linebacker name.
It's a pretty good linebacker name. Give him number 46 or something, big neck roll. He's ready to go out there and kick some butt. Jack Kaiser.
And he's been nothing but elite at Notre Dame. I kind of am surprised he's being tabbed as only a day 3 pick just because the grading has been that good for him. Last year posted an 83 defensive grade, 87 run defense, 91 tackling grade, and also has a ton of pass rushing snaps, which would be really cool if Al Golden can start setting his linebackers on more blitzing. And he has a lot of that blitzing experience and had a lot of success last year while doing it. I mean, the 18 total pressures from the linebacker position, 3 sacks, 3 QB hits. I mean, that's I think a very underrated aspect of his game. And also the missed tackling percentage is almost elite at this point. And it might actually be elite because of the 91 tackling grade. Only a 4.6 missed tackle rate in 2024.
He missed 5 all year.
Missed 5 all year and still had, 103 tackles is what I'm reading, I believe. So, yeah, I mean, I think that would be a killer pick. I don't know if he'll be available in the 5th round or not. I think he's probably around that 4th, 5th round range, a lot like how I just described with Jalen Rivers. But I do love that pick.
Alrighty, who's your 5th or 5th? Yes. No, you've done your 5th round
6th.
guy. I guess I have to do my 6th. I have to do my
Yes.
6th round guy. And I'm going to go with another guy that we talked about on Wednesday with the 6th round pick and pick number 193. The Cincinnati Bengals draft Hunter Wohler, safety from Wisconsin. I think he was the last guy we might have talked about on the show on Wednesday of the safeties, from Wisconsin, described as a coach's dream. And he is a tackling machine.
He is a
tackling
thumper.
machine. 200 combined tackles over the last 2 years. Primarily a run defender, in there to help out Jordan Battle on rundowns. I mean, you could theoretically do where you have Wohler and Battle as your 2 safeties on downs that that the ball is primarily going to be run, because we know Geno Stone can't stop the run to save his life. And then also, I think it means something, too, that he has, some special teams experience. When you're drafting a guy this late, you're wanting a guy that can also play special teams, especially at the safety position. But also, our guy, Joe Goodberry, he loves Hunter Wohler. Has him as the number 2 safety in the class, trailing only a guy by the name of Nick Emanwari, who we may have talked about just a few minutes ago. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. But I think, Wohler is projected in this 5th, 6th, 7th round. And I think in the 6th round, I think he'd be a really good addition to the Bengals safety room.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'd be a steal. And I think he's a guy, like you said, could be starting right away on this defense. Like you said, the tackling numbers have been really good. Did have a spike in missed tackling rate in 2024, and that might have hurt his draft stock a little bit. That might be why we're talking about him as a later day 3 pick, as opposed to an early day 3, maybe even late day 2 pick. But the dude's an absolute thumper. I loved watching his tape. He literally just torpedoes himself at ball carriers. And is really just a tough guy. And the special teams experience is something that you definitely need to have when you're drafting some of these guys in later rounds.
I mean, he has no regrets when he goes that
no regrets.
No regrets.
No regrets. No
regrets. No regrets.
Not even a letter. Not even a letter.
Not even one. Riley asks, if we take a linebacker, do you think Pratt is traded for a 6th or a 7th? No. I think if Pratt was going to be traded, he already would have been.
Yeah.
Now,
you can't put all of your eggs in your basket with a late day 3 linebacker.
Now, if you're drafting like a Carson Schweizinger, then maybe that's more likely. But I think you're drafting a late linebacker. I don't know, or a Jahad Campbell.
Yeah,
maybe you run into that. Okay, your 6th round pick. Let me hit the. Where did it go? Where did my chime go? There it is.
With the 6th round pick, the Bengals are going to select. We're going to stick a linebacker. We're going to go with Nick Martin, the linebacker out of Oklahoma State, which I don't think we talked about him at all.
We did not.
For day 3.
Looked at, though.
Yeah. So the Bengals have had contact with Nick Martin. He was a 2-year starter at Oklahoma State. Has some special teams experience in his earlier years in college. Guy was a 2-time team captain. And the description was he acted as an extra coach while he was sidelined with an injury in 2024 towards the back end of that year. He was first team All Big 12 in 2023, posted 102 tackles. Grading isn't great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. He's graded in the high 60s in pretty much every linebacker metric the last 2 years. And also one thing, I guess a con to him, he did have a 15.5% missed tackle rate in 2024, which is a little high for a linebacker. But if we're talking about the character that was described in his player profile and the amount of usage that he had in the linebacker position, I think he could be a good addition to the team.
The size is, I know, a question with him as well. I don't know if you mentioned that. He's not a big guy.
He doesn't have a lot of length. Yeah.
5'11", 221. That's a smaller linebacker. And that's kind of a question too, is a 5'11" running back or linebacker versus Derrick Henry? Like, because these are the questions though that, the Bengals are having to ask themselves throughout of, they're trying to stop Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And then you need speed, and he has decent speed at the linebacker position, but those are definitely questions for that. Okay. That is our 6 rounds. Now, we're also going to throw in a 7th just for fun, but also because I think that the Bengals are probably going to try and add a pick at some point.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I would be
and
very
it might not be a
surprised if
7th.
they didn't trade down.
It might not be a 7th. It might be a 6th. It might be a 5th, but we're just going to call it a 7th just for the sake of this discussion and for the fun of it. And what we said, at least for me, is I just made this a 7th round pick. It could be the first pick of the 7th round. It could be Mr. Irrelevant. Like, it could be anything in that stretch, but you will start us off in the 7th round.
Well, speaking of the U and how much I love Sam's, we're gonna go with wide receiver Samuel Brown to cap off this 2025 draft here. Samuel Brown was a wide receiver at the U last year, and is definitely more of a project in terms of the wide receiver position here, which is kind of something you might really expect with a 7th round pick. But in 2024. Posted 36 receptions, 509 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pretty pedestrian stat line, but the explosiveness is there when he's on tape. You see his length that he has at the receiver position. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. And it really just kind of shows. Ranked 14th in all of college football in yards after catch at 8.5 yards. Was primarily used in the screen game, which was kind of nice to see good underneath passing snaps. When I was looking at his reels earlier, I think he's a good project that the Bengals could maybe mold into becoming a decent wide receiver in this league. Posted a 9.67 relative athletic score, so the athleticism is definitely there. The tools are definitely there for him to become a decent wide receiver. Also ran a sub 4.4 40-yard dash. Doesn't have any special teams snaps, which is kind of a concern. But honestly, with his length and his speed, I would love to see him try. I'd love to see them try to give him a go at kick returner, because I think he could provide definitely a level of athleticism for that.
I like it. He's not a guy that I've done a ton of research into, but I like it. Alrighty. My last pick here with a 7th round pick. I'm also going to go wide receiver.
Okay.
I'm going to go to UNLV and pick Ricky White Jr. I don't know that he'll be there in the 7th. He's kind of fluctuating between 6th, 7th, or so on, but we're talking about special teams experience. Well, he's going to give that to you. We mentioned it on Wednesday's show. He won the Mountain West Conference Special Teams Player of the Year last year and did not return a kick and did not return a punt. He did that because he blocked 4 punts, and he is, one of those he returned for a touchdown. There you go. When you're drafting a wide receiver this late, like you mentioned, you want special teams experience. You want a guy that can go in there, and whether he's tackling, whether he's returning kicks, he has to be able to do something more than just catch the ball, which he can do. Back-to-back 1,000-yard receivers, 2-time team captain, inside-outside receiver as well. Does have some drops are concerned, and we mentioned on Wednesday, too, he was suspended the entirety of the 2021 season. Never really come out as to why he was suspended. But Ricky White Jr. is a guy that I'm at least keeping an eye on of potentially the Bengals getting.
Dude, the amount of usage that he's had at UNLV is incredible.
Insane.
Over 120 targets at each of the past 2 seasons. We talked about Nick Nash being San Jose State's entire offense. I think Ricky White is kind of in that category as well, just in terms of the usage and the value that he provided over at UNLV. I think that's a really good pick. I'd be happy with that as well. I don't know if he's going to be available in the 7th, just given the usage that he had and the special teams prowess that he provided. But I do love Ricky White.
And there we go. That closes us out.
Yeah, a little bit light of a show here compared to the past couple of
and I mean on Wednesday we'll go a little bit longer as well. Who is your 6th round pick again? I didn't write him down on my notes, and now I can't even remember who it is.
Nick Martin.
Thank you. I was like, I knew it was I couldn't remember his name off the top of my head. So let's recap. First round, Nick Emanwari for you, Derek Harmon for myself. You went with Jack Sawyer in the 2nd round. I went with Tate Ratledge. You went with Omar Norman Lott. I went with Kyle Kennard in the 3rd round. You went with Basil Tootin. I went with Jarquez Hunter in the 4th round. You went Jalen Rivers in the 5th. I went Jack Kaiser. You went Nick Martin in the 6th. I went Hunter Wooler. We both went wide receiver in the 7th. You took Sam Brown. I took Ricky White. I like that we literally had the same positions, just different order.
We did. And I thought we were going to have at least one of the same picks, because I think if it were going to be anything, it were going to be the 4th round pick with the running back.
And I was Tootin. I was close, but I just didn't know if he was going to be there by the 4th round pick. And that's where I ended up not taking Tootin with it, and went with Hunter. But Tootin very well could be the guy. I mean, listen, there's about a dozen running backs that you could see the Bengals walking away from. It's going to be one of them in the 4th or the 5th round. I feel confident in that. It might even be the 6th, but I'd be stunned if the Bengals don't come away with at least one running back this week.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
We did
That is it. One more question for you, though, and it's something that we probably should have talked about off the bat. Is Trey Hendrickson a Bengal this time next week?
Yeah.
What if... what is there any scenario that the Bengals draft that you think makes it more likely that they go day 2, that he gets traded for a day 2 pick?
I guess can you elaborate a little more on that question? I guess
is there anything is there a player the Bengals could draft, or is it really just like an Abdul Carter falling to them that would allow for them to have the opportunity to trade Trey Hendrickson, if you understand what I'm saying here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if they decided to go with one of these edge rushers round 1, I doubt it would be Abdul Carter sliding to him, but say if it were a Jalen Walker or,
But I guess my question to you is Jalen Walker good enough that you can get rid of Trey Hendrickson?
No. I don't know if any of these edge rushers are other than Abdul Carter would.
And that's kind of my question to you.
We can get to that point. And it's not just even a matter of whether an edge rusher is good enough. I think there's also a scheme fit question in that as well, because a lot of these really good edge rushers are really being touted as 3-4 edge rushers in this draft. I mean, if we're only looking at 4-3 edge rushers in this 1st round, it's really Michael Williams and nobody else. I really can't think of a single 4-3 or traditional 4-3 edge rusher that's being touted as a 1st round draft pick right now. Am I forgetting anybody? Because I'm just thinking Mike Green's a 3-4 guy. Donovan Ezraku's a 3-4 guy.
A&M guys, 4-3.
Who?
Texas A&M.
Okay, Shamar Stewart. I mean, so it's more of a toolsy traits guy. He's also a guy that I really don't think is going to be available at 17. I think some team is really gonna just latch on to Shamar Stewart's traits, and it's not going to work out. Nick Scorton, I guess, is a 4-3 guy as well. That's a potential thing, but he's not. He's also being tabbed as a 3-4 DN because he's on the heavier side of edge rushers. He's being tabbed as a 5 technically. So I don't know if there's really a scheme fit with him that's not in a 3-4 defense just because of how big that guy is.
The Trey Hendrickson situation is, I agree. I just don't think you can. I just don't know that there is anybody in this draft that is going to fill that void unless you're trading him and you're drafting 2 or 3 guys and you're just hoping that the rotation can do what that is. Maybe you trade him for a second and that's your James Pierce pick, or something to gives you the opportunity to maybe take a wild card on that. But even then, I don't know. I think they should. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm going back and forth on that. As far as the proper way to do it.
I mean, personally, I think Trey is going to get an extension at some point. I think that Both
The
sides
hands are
will
tied.
probably both sides will end up working something out towards training camp. I think Trey wants to be here. I think the Bengals want to keep him here. But at some point, one side's going to have to cave, and I'm hoping it's the ownership, because I think that, I mean, if I were Trey and I'm hearing all these interviews from the ownership about how you should be happy about, money doesn't necessarily equal happiness or whatnot. You're just playing all these petty games in terms of that. And I get it. He signed a contract a couple years ago, and that's where I'm kind of, like, I get if you're on a rookie contract and you're wanting out of the situation because you want to go make your money, but literally, you should. Why did he? I don't know why he signed that extension a couple years ago. Like, if Trey's going to be mad at anybody in this situation, he should be pissed off at his agent, man. I don't know how he hasn't fired his agent yet.
It's his agent's fault.
I agree.
It's his agent's fault.
So I don't know. I still think they're going to try to make it work with Trey, and I'm hoping they can make it work with him, honestly.
Yeah, I'm torn on this entire situation. Like, I'm torn as far as what is the right thing to do. And I think that the trade for a pick, I think it's too late for that. I think it's too late for that, because I think you should have done that and then hopefully have filled that void in free agency then if you were going to get rid of it. And there's nobody out there in free agency that's going to give you anything, really, because they're still in free agency for a reason right now. If they were worth anything, they would have already signed somewhere. Yeah. And I mean, are you going to sign Lawrence Guy? Or now I just want to keep naming random Bengals edge rushers that they've had over the years. Margus Hunt.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. As far as that.
Just the one they traded for mid-season. Wasn't he an edge rusher, or he's in not Chris Jones? What's his name? Or was it Chris Jones?
There was a Chris Jones. Yes, a couple of years ago.
The guy that they traded with the Jaguars in the middle of the season.
Yeah, it was.
Chris Lewis. No, Chris Lewis.
Chris Lewis. Wasn't he the cornerback?
Oh, shit. Oh, no, that's Clark Lewis, isn't it? Is that Clark Lewis Harris?
Edge rusher trade Jaguars. Now I'm going to see here. We're just Googling this here. Apparently this is saying is the trade for. Okay, here we go. Here's a Bengals article from 2017. This was Chris Smith.
Chris Smith. Okay,
Chris
we got
Smith. And that was an April trade too. That was an April trade that he was. So what a deal for a late 5th round pick. Interesting. Chris Smith. Wasn't expecting to get a Chris Smith mention on today's episode of the pod. Okay, looking ahead. Wednesday, we invite you to join us for our first round mock draft. We're going to have our guys, Tommy and Alex. They're going to be joining us. And we're going to be mocking the entirety of the first round. We're going to randomly be given teams. We don't know who they are yet. We're literally going to find out at the start of the show. That's going to be the first thing that we do. We'll randomly get it, and we'll go through that. On Sunday, then, 1 week from today, we will have our draft recap show. Our draft recap show, we'll go through all of the picks, what we like, what we didn't like. We'll even talk some undrafted free agents as well, because we'll have a decent enough knowledge as far as that goes for the Bengals. And then the Wednesday after that, so it will be, I believe, the first Wednesday of May, or is that the second Wednesday in May? That would be, yes, the first Wednesday in May, May the 7th, will be our mock schedule show, where we're going to create a mock schedule and go from there. One of my favorite shows that we did last year. And then we'll have a live schedule reaction, hopefully, if it comes out on that Wednesday. And if not, we might push that show to that Thursday if it comes out on the Thursday, or whenever it is. We might just do it that night to have a live schedule reaction that evening.
Then after that, we're going to have to get creative. we're going to have to get creative. It's going to be it's the deadest. We're going to have Ring of Honor nominees at some point that we're going to talk about. I'm really is Gino going to be on the ballot this year?
See, that's going to put a wild card into us, because I think we would stick with Lamar Parrish and Dave Lapham.
But if Gino's on there, or if AJ Green's on there,
yeah,
I mean,
going to be tough.
Gonna be,
my assumption is they. I don't know.
I think Gino might be on this year, and
because he's eligible for the Hall of Fame. So maybe
Gino is.
But yes, he's eligible for the Hall of Fame this coming season. So he very well could be on there, and that'll be a tough one to say no to. That'll be a tough one to say no to, especially with Geno Atkins. But then also we'll have another episode. We'll have another edition of the Jungle Juice Joust. We'll have that this summer at some point.
Okay.
So we got some things to look forward to for that. And if you don't know the Jungle Juice Joust, just stay tuned in. Make sure you subscribe and follow us, and you can compete at
We're
home.
going to make sure
see if
Sam
you can do
gets to compete in this one, considering he's a big trivia nerd and he didn't get to compete last year. So
I was kind of having fun making those. I've even been pondering throughout the last year of questions to ask. But yeah, we can figure it out and do that. Maybe you want to take the reins. Maybe we'll do a couple of episodes of that throughout the summer. I think it might maybe we can do a tournament.
I think we got to do like a fantasy football show. There's just like some type of fantasy football show at some point. I don't know. We're just throwing ideas out there. Anybody that's listening, if there's like a type of thing you guys want us to talk about or have a show about, I mean, honestly, our summer's pretty much open other than the few ideas that we kind of threw out there. So if you guys have anything that you would like to hear us talk about or anything you'd like to hear us mention about, feel free to drop it in the comment section below or whatever. And
if you want, you could just give your cell phone number out right now and they can text you about it.
I mean, I'm not going to read that. You want to play the game of how many unopened texts I have in my phone? How many do you think?
350.
Less than that.
Okay. Is it over 100?
Yes.
Okay, 135. Okay, what is it?
214.
214. Okay, I have 3. 3. And 2 of those have come during this show today.
Now, 96 of those are from known senders. The other ones are, unknown senders. I guess I can.
And how many of those 96 are Riley James? Probably 90 of them.
No, none of them are for Riley.
Wow, I'm surprised. He should feel good about himself. Okay, so we'll see you Wednesday for that. Remember to follow us on our social media channels. We're Facebook, we're YouTube, or Twitter. We're also on your favorite podcasting platform. Give us a 5-star rating that way. Wednesday, join us 8 Eastern for our first round mock draft. Should be a lot of fun for that. Mick, any parting thoughts?
No, please tune into our show on Wednesday. It's one of our favorite shows of the year where we get to mock the first round. We had some picks right last year.
It had a lot wrong.
I'd say we probably hit about 25, maybe 30% last year. Do you think?
I'll have to pull it up and see how he did. So I'm not entirely sure.
But it's really fun. We had a really good time doing it. We had a great time meeting up with Alex and Tommy last time. We're going to meet up with Alex and Tommy again. So yeah, please tune into that. And if we don't see you on Wednesday's show, enjoy the draft. It's one of our favorite weekends of the year. So yeah, just enjoy it. Hopefully we get some good guys on the team.
That'll wrap us up here for this week. Until next time, Hoo Day.
Hoo Day. Thanks for watching.